Jack Morrison was always the first one at work and the last one to leave. Being a single dad meant working 2 jobs to keep food on the table for his 8-year-old daughter, Emma. That cold winter morning in Minneapolis started like any other. He was walking along Lake Harriet on his way to his morning shift when he heard screams. Through the fog, he saw someone had fallen through the ice. Without thinking twice, Jack ran on to the frozen lake. The ice cracked under his feet as he got closer. He didn't know the young woman he was about to save would change his life forever. She wasn't just another person in trouble. She was Sarah Thompson, the missing billionaire heiress who had disappeared from her family's empire 6 months ago. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The front door of apartment 3B creaked open as Jack stumbled in, his clothes still dripping from the lake rescue. His hands trembled as he fumbled with the keys, the Minnesota cold biting deep into his bones. "Daddy!" Emma's voice carried from their tiny kitchen, followed by the clatter of her pink piggy bank hitting the linoleum floor, coins scattered everywhere. "I'll get your warm clothes." Jack watched his daughter dash to his room, her brown ponytail bouncing, guilt gnawing at him for making her worry. At 8 years old, she already carried too much responsibility on her small shoulders. "I'm okay, sunshine," he called after her, peeling off his wet jacket. "Just a little cold." Emma returned with his warmest sweater, the one her mother had given him their last Christmas together. "You're supposed to wait for the firefighters. That's what they taught us in school." Jack pulled the sweater over his head, breathing in the faint scent of Maria's perfume that somehow still lingered after 3 years. "Sometimes we can't wait, sweetheart." The morning sun crept through their small window, illuminating the stack of bills on the kitchen counter. Electric bill marked "Final Notice" in angry red letters. Rent due next week. Car payment already late. Emma retrieved her piggy bank, gathering the scattered coins. "Here, Daddy. I've been saving." Jack's heart clenched. "No, sunshine! That's your college fund, remember?" She pushed it toward him anyway. "Mom would want us to help people." The memory of Maria hit him fresh. Her kindness, her unwavering optimism, even during the darkest days of her illness. The medical bills had drained their savings, but she'd never once complained. "We have what matters most," she'd say, hugging Emma close. Jack glanced at the clock. 7:15. "Time for school, kiddo. I'll make you breakfast while you get ready." Emma hesitated. "But you're still shivering." "I'm fine, go on." While Emma got dressed, Jack moved on autopilot through their morning routine. 2 pieces of toast, 1 scrambled egg split between them, the last of the orange juice. His body ached from the cold swim, but there was no time to rest. The school bus would come at 7:45, and his shift at the office building started at 8:30. As he packed Emma's lunch, peanut butter sandwich, apple, and the last granola bar, his phone buzzed. Text from Mike at the garage. "Can you cover Tony's shift tonight? Double pay." Jack's muscles protested at the thought of pulling a double, but double pay meant maybe making rent on time this month. He typed back, "I'll be there." Emma emerged wearing her favorite purple sweater, the one with the slightly frayed sleeve that Jack had carefully mended. "Did you take your medicine, Daddy? For your back?" The prescription bottle sat empty on the counter. Another expense he'd been putting off. "Already did, sunshine. Now eat up before the bus comes." They sat together at their small table, the morning sun painting shadows of the window bars across their breakfast. Emma munched her toast, eyeing him with that too-old look she sometimes got. "The lady in the lake, was she okay?" "She's going to be fine," Jack assured her, though honestly, he wasn't sure. Everything had happened so fast. The screams, the crack of ice, the shocking cold. He'd gotten her to shore just as the ambulance arrived, then had to rush home to get Emma ready for school. A horn honked outside. The school bus was early. Emma grabbed her backpack, then threw her arms around him in a fierce hug. "I'm proud of you, Daddy." Jack held her tight, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "Have a good day, sunshine. Remember, Mrs. Garcia is picking you up after school." "Because you have to fix cars tonight?" "That's right. I'll be home to tuck you in." He watched from the window as she climbed onto the bus, waving until it disappeared around the corner. Only then did he allow himself to feel the full weight of exhaustion. His wet clothes lay in a heap by the door. Bills scattered across the counter, empty prescription bottle, empty refrigerator. But there was no time to dwell on any of it. He had 30 minutes to get to the office building, where 20 floors of toilets and trash cans awaited. Jack changed into his janitor's uniform, grabbed his work ID, and headed out. As he passed the lake on his way to work, emergency vehicles still dotted the shore. A small crowd had gathered, and a news van was setting up. Jack kept his head down and walked faster. He'd done what anyone would do. That's what he told himself. No need for attention or complications. He couldn't know then how much his life had already changed, or that the ripples from this morning's rescue would soon become waves that would transform everything. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune hit the newsstands the next morning with the headline, "Mystery Woman Rescued from Lake Harriet. Local Hero Disappears Before Recognition." The story ran above the fold, complete with a grainy photo of emergency. Vehicles clustered around the lake's edge. Jack spotted the paper on his way into work, displayed prominently in the office building's lobby. His stomach churned as he pushed his cleaning cart past the security desk, where Officer Tom was engrossed in the article. "Hey, Morrison, you come in through the lake entrance this morning?" Tom called out, chuckling at his own joke. Jack forced a smile. "Just doing my job, Tom. Your job's cleaning toilets, not diving into frozen lakes." Tom held up the paper. "They're looking for you, you know. Reporter was here asking questions." "Tell them I moved to Florida," Jack muttered, heading for the elevator. But escaping attention proved impossible. By mid-morning, the story had hit the local news stations. Jack's phone buzzed constantly with messages from unknown numbers. How they'd found him, he couldn't guess, but each ping made him more anxious. During his lunch break, he called Emma's school, just checking she's okay. "Oh, Mr. Morrison." The secretary's voice brightened. "Emma told everyone about your rescue during morning announcements. The whole school's talking about it. We're so proud to have a hero parent in our community." Jack winced. "Listen, could you make sure no reporters—" "Don't worry. We've already turned away 2 news vans. Principal Chen is very strict about media on school property. At least Emma was safe." But Jack's worry deepened. He hadn't considered how this attention might affect her. His phone buzzed again. A text from Mike. "At the garage. Dude, you're trending. Citrus Lake Harriet hero." Jack didn't even know what trending meant. He turned his phone off and focused on his work, but couldn't escape the whispers and stares that followed him through the building. Around 3 o'clock, Detective Lisa Chen appeared at his custodial closet. She was short, sharp-eyed, and carried herself with quiet authority. "Mr. Morrison, I need a few minutes of your time." Jack leaned on his mop. "About the lake? I already gave a statement to the first responders. This is about the woman you saved." Detective Chen pulled out a photo. "We believe she's someone we've been looking for." The image showed a younger, more polished version of the woman he'd pulled from the lake. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, posed before a corporate logo. "Sarah Thompson," Detective Chen said. "Heiress to Thompson Worldwide. She disappeared 6 months ago, emptied several accounts, left no trace. Until now." Jack remembered the woman's eyes when he'd reached for her in the water. Desperate, but not just from drowning. She didn't want to be found. "That's not your concern, Mr. Morrison. We need your official statement about what happened." "I heard screams. I helped, that's all." Detective Chen studied him. "The Thompson family is very influential. They'll want to thank you properly." "I don't need thanks." "No?" She glanced at his janitor's uniform. 2 jobs, single father, behind on rent. "Yes, I did my homework. Most people would see this as an opportunity." Jack met her gaze. "Most people haven't spent their life learning the difference between opportunities and obligations, Detective." She smiled slightly. Interesting perspective. Well, when Ms. Thompson wakes up, she'll likely want to thank you herself. Here's my card. After she left, Jack sat heavily on his cleaning cart. The woman, Sarah, had a name now, a story, a life he'd inadvertently become tangled in. He thought of her face again, the look in her eyes before he'd pulled her out. She'd been running from something, just like he was running now from all this attention. His phone vibrated in his pocket. Reluctantly, he turned it on to find a message from Mrs. Garcia. Emma's art teacher wants to talk to you. Something about a drawing she made today. Jack sighed. One more thing to handle. But as he scrolled through his messages, a news alert caught his eye. Thompson Harris found. Condition critical but stable. Critical but stable. He shouldn't care. It wasn't his business. He had enough to worry about without getting involved in the drama of billionaire families. But as he pushed his cart to the next floor, Jack couldn't shake the memory of her hand gripping his in the frozen water, holding on like she'd finally found something worth surfacing for. The steady beep of hospital monitors filled Sarah Thompson's consciousness before she opened her eyes. A massive Thompson family portrait hung on the wall opposite her bed. Not the standard hospital decor. Her brother Robert must have arranged for her private wing, just as he'd arranged everything else in her life. In the portrait, taken just 2 years ago, the Thompson family stood like royalty in their mansion's grand hall. Her father Richard, stern and imposing in his tailored suit. Her mother Eleanor, perfect posture and practiced smile. Robert, the golden son, heir apparent to Thompson worldwide. And Sarah wearing the appropriate dress, the appropriate expression, playing her appropriate role. If only they knew she'd been planning her escape even then. Sarah tried to sit up, but her body protested. Memories of the ice-cold water flooded back. The crack beneath her feet, the shocking plunge, the certainty that she'd finally made her last mistake. Then strong hands gripping hers, a stranger's voice telling her to hold on. "You're awake." Robert's voice came from the doorway. He looked exactly as he had 6 months ago, perfectly groomed, radiating authority, disappointment etched in every line of his face. "Don't start," Sarah whispered, her throat raw. 6 months, Sarah. Do you have any idea what you put this family through? He moved to her bedside, straightening her blanket with mechanical precision. "Mother's been in and out of therapy. Father's blood pressure. I left a note. I need to find my own way is not an explanation. It's a teenage tantrum. You're 28 years old." Sarah turned away, focusing on the window. Snow was falling outside, each flake carrying a fragment of the freedom she'd almost tasted. "The board meeting is next week," Robert continued. "We'll announce your return, spin this as a planned sabbatical." "No." "No?" His eyebrows rose. "Perhaps the hypothermia is affecting your judgment. You are a Thompson. You have responsibilities." Sarah thought of the last 6 months. The small apartment she'd rented under a false name, the job she'd found at a local bookstore. Simple things, making her own coffee, taking the bus, talking to people who didn't want anything from her, except conversation. "I was happy," she said softly. Robert scoffed. "Happy? Hiding in Minneapolis like someone real." Sarah met his gaze. "When's the last time you felt real, Robert?" Her brother stiffened. For a moment, she glimpsed something beneath his polished surface, uncertainty, maybe even envy. But he smoothed it away just as they'd been taught. "The man who saved you," he said, changing tactics. "Local hero story is gaining traction. PR thinks we can use it." "Use it?" Sarah's voice sharpened. "He risked his life, and he'll be compensated appropriately. Though from what Detective Chen reports, he's being surprisingly difficult about accepting gratitude." Sarah remembered the hands that had gripped hers, strong and certain, not like the soft, manicured hands that had passed her endless contracts and social obligations her whole life. A nurse entered with a tablet. "Time for your medications, Ms. Thompson. And there's a young lady in the children's ward who made you a get-well card. She saw your story on the news." "No visitors," Robert said automatically. "I want to see it." Sarah held out her hand for the card. It was construction paper, decorated with glitter and a crayon drawing of someone being pulled from a lake. Inside, in careful child's handwriting, "Dear Lake Lady, I'm glad you're okay. My daddy saved you. Love, Emma Morrison." Sarah's heart stopped. Morrison, the name she'd heard nurses whispering. Her rescuer. "The janitor's daughter," Robert said dismissively. "I've already instructed the hospital. Get out." "Sarah, get out, Robert, or I'll tell the press exactly why I ran away. Every detail, every secret, everything this family has swept under its imported rugs." He studied her face, recognizing the steel their father had spent years forging in them both. Without another word, he left. Sarah traced the glitter on Emma's card. A janitor, a single father, a man who jumped into a frozen lake for a stranger while her own brother calculated PR angles. She thought of her expensive therapy sessions, years of trying to understand why she felt so empty inside her golden cage. The therapist always talked about finding purpose, meaning genuine connection. Looking at the child's drawing, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not the manufactured hope of corporate mergers and charity galas, but something real, something true. Outside her window, snow continued to fall on Minneapolis, covering everything in clean, blank possibility. Jack stood in the hospital corridor, Emma's hand warm in his, staring at the simple white card a nurse had handed him. The hospital bracelet was still attached. Thompson, Sarah, room 412. He hadn't planned to come, but Emma's art teacher had. Shown him the get well card she'd made, and his daughter's hopeful face had broken down his defenses. "Do I look okay?" Emma asked, smoothing her purple sweater for the 10th time. Jack smiled. "Perfect, sunshine. Remember what we practiced?" "We're glad you're feeling better, Miss Thompson." "Maybe we shouldn't," Jack started, but the door opened. A nurse emerged, nodding at them. "She's been asking about you, Mr. Morrison, both of you." The private room was larger than Jack's entire apartment. Sunlight streamed through wide windows, and bouquets covered every surface. Sarah Thompson sat propped up in bed, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, looking both more vulnerable and more real than the corporate photos he'd seen in the news. Her eyes met his, and Jack felt the same jolt of connection he'd experienced at the lake. Recognition somehow, despite being strangers. "You came," she said softly. Emma stepped forward, clutching her new card. "We're glad you're feeling better." "Miss Thompson." Sarah's face lit up. "You must be Emma. I got your first beautiful card." She pointed to where it sat prominently displayed on her bedside table. "Would you like to sit with me? I heard you're quite the artist." While Emma climbed carefully onto the bed, Jack hung back, taking in the scene. Sarah's hospital gown was probably silk. Her IV pole looked chrome-plated, but her smile at his daughter was completely genuine. "I brought you another picture," Emma said, handing over the card. "It's our house this time, and our cat, even though we don't have one yet. Daddy says maybe when—" She stopped, glancing at Jack. "When things are more settled," Jack finished quietly. Sarah studied the crayon drawing. "This is wonderful, Emma. You know, I always wanted a cat, but our house was too big. They would have gotten lost. Too big for a cat." Emma's eyes widened. "How big?" 32 rooms. Sarah made a face, most of them just for showing off. "We have 3 rooms, Emma said proudly, "and I can see the lake from my window." Jack watched them talk, marveling at how easily Emma had slipped past the obvious barriers of wealth and status. Children's magic, he supposed. Seeing people simply as people. A sharp knock interrupted them. Detective Chen entered, her expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Morrison, Ms. Thompson. Sorry to interrupt, but I need to finalize some statements." Jack tensed, but Sarah spoke first. "Can it wait, Detective? Emma was about to tell me about her school's art show." Detective Chen's eyes moved between them, noting something that made her smile slightly. "Of course. I'll come back." After she left, Sarah turned to Jack. "I'm sorry about all this attention. My family, they can be overwhelming." "We're fine," Jack said automatically. "No," Sarah's voice was firm. "You didn't ask for any of this. She hesitated. "I needed to thank you. Not for the rescue, though obviously for that too, but for how you handled everything after. The media, the rewards, my family's offers." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "Anyone would have—" "No!" Sarah reached for his hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "They wouldn't have. Believe me, I know exactly how rare genuine people are." Emma watched this exchange with sharp eyes, still holding her crayons. The moment stretched, filled with things neither adult quite knew how to say. Finally, Sarah cleared her throat. "Emma, tells me you fix cars?" "At night, yeah. My second job. I have a car that needs fixing." She smiled. "Well, technically it's fine, but I'm sure something's wrong with it. Maybe you could take a look." Jack recognized the transparent excuse, appreciated the way she was trying to help without wounding his pride. "I could do that." "Daddy's the best car fixer," Emma declared. "He can fix anything." Sarah's eyes stayed on Jack's. "I believe that." Looking at her, Jack felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Possibility. Not the desperate kind that came with scratching lottery tickets or checking job listings, but something warmer, something real. A nurse appeared with Sarah's medication. "Time for rest, Ms. Thompson." Emma carefully climbed down, gathering her crayons. "Can we come back?" Sarah looked at Jack, letting him answer. "We'll see, sunshine." But they all knew he meant yes. Between his morning cleaning shift and evening garage work, Jack stopped at Jerry's diner for coffee. The place was packed, unusual for mid-afternoon, with every customer hunched over the same magazine. The cover showed a familiar face, Sarah Thompson, in an elegant evening gown, headline blazing, "Missing Heiress Found, the $4.8 billion woman." Jerry himself brought Jack's coffee. "Hey, Lake Hero, guess you've seen this?" He slid the magazine across the counter. Jack's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. The article was a glossy spread of Sarah's life. Charity galas, yacht parties, corporate boardrooms, photos of a mansion that made European castles look modest. The Thompson family empire laid out in bold graphics. Holdings in tech, real estate, media. $4.8 billion, Jerry whispered. "That's billion with a B. The woman you saved. She's worth more than the GDP of some countries." The coffee turned bitter in Jack's mouth. He thought of Sarah in her hospital room, talking cats with Emma, asking him to look at her car. Had it all been an act? Rich people's games? His phone buzzed. "Mrs. Garcia, Channel 5 news van outside your apartment. Emma's with me." Jack threw some cash on the counter and hurried out, but the magazine's images followed him. Sarah at the Met Gala, Sarah at her family's private island, Sarah closing billion-dollar deals. The garage was no escape. Every customer wanted to talk about it. "Did you know? Man, you should have held out for a reward. Bet the Thompsons offered you something sweet to keep quiet." Mike pulled him aside during a break job. "Listen, Jack, some guys in suits were here asking questions. Real corporate types. Everything okay?" Jack tightened a bolt with more force than necessary. "Fine, because if you need a lawyer, I need to work." But the questions wouldn't stop. The magazine cover haunted him, Sarah's professional smile so different from the one she'd given Emma. He thought of her hand gripping his at the hospital, wondering now if he'd imagined the connection there. His phone kept buzzing. Unknown. Numbers. News outlets. Finally, a text from Detective Chen. "Thompson family press conference tomorrow. Thought you should know." Jack sat in his beat-up truck, grease still on his hands, staring at the magazine he'd taken from Jerry's. The numbers were staggering. Sarah's annual clothing budget could pay off all his debts. The phone in one photo on her desk cost more than 6 months of his rent. Emma's latest drawing was tucked in his sun visor. Their little family, plus Sarah, stick figures holding hands. His daughter's innocent hope made his chest ache. A light knock on his window made him jump. Detective Chen stood there looking apologetic. "Kind of late for police work," Jack said, rolling down the window. "This isn't official." She held up a file folder. "Thought you might want to know who you're dealing with." The full Thompson story. I've seen the magazine. No, you've seen the PR version. This, she tapped the folder. This is the real story. Sarah's restraining order against her ex-fiancé. The buried scandals. The real reason she ran. Jack stared at the folder, tempted. But then he remembered Sarah's eyes when she'd talked about wanting something real. Keep it, he said. Detective Chen smiled slightly. Interesting choice. Not really. Either she's playing some game, in which case I don't want to know more, or she's genuine, in which case she deserves to tell her own story. And which do you think it is? Jack thought of Sarah's face when Emma showed her the drawing. Some things couldn't be faked. Doesn't matter what I think. What matters is protecting Emma from this circus. Detective Chen nodded. Good answer. But Jack, sometimes protecting people means giving them a chance to be real. Even billionaires. She left him with that thought, the magazine still open on his dashboard. Sarah Thompson, worth $4.8 billion, who talked to his daughter about cats and looked at him like he was worth something more than headlines. Jack started his truck. Time to pick up Emma and face whatever cameras waited at home, whatever game. This was or wasn't. His priority was clear. Everything else, including the way his heart twisted when he thought of Sarah's smile, would have to wait. By morning, the viral social media post had over 1 million views. Lake Harriet hero, working class, single dad saves billionaire heiress. The video showed Jack's truck trying to navigate through a sea of reporters, someone shouting, "Is it true you turned down $1 million reward?" Jack watched the clip on his phone in Mrs. Garcia's kitchen, where he and Emma had spent the night. His neighbor's small house smelled of coffee and empanadas, the familiar scents a sharp contrast to the chaos outside. "They're saying such nice things about you, Daddy," Emma said, scrolling through comments on Mrs. Garcia's tablet. "Look, people want to help us." Jack gently took the tablet away. "We don't need help, Sunshine. We're doing fine." Mrs. Garcia snorted from the stove. "Tell that to your transmission. I can hear your truck from 3 blocks away." "Maria," Jack warned, using her full name. She placed a fresh empanada in front of him. "You're too proud, Jack Morrison. Sometimes God sends help through unexpected angels, through billionaires who disappear from their own lives." Jack kept his voice low, but Emma was already absorbed in her breakfast. The morning news played quietly on Mrs. Garcia's small TV. Robert Thompson's base filled the screen, standing at a podium. "The Thompson family is grateful to Mr. Morrison for his heroic actions. We're arranging appropriate compensation." Jack turned it off. His phone buzzed. Mike from the garage. "Media circus here too. Take the night off. Paid leave." Another income hit they couldn't afford. Jack rubbed his temples. "Mr. Morrison?" Mrs. Garcia's grandson Pablo poked his head in. "Channel 5 is interviewing the neighbors. They're asking about Emma." Jack's head snapped up. "What about Emma? Like her school, her schedule?" "Some lady was showing pictures." Jack was on his feet before Pablo finished. "I need to call Principal Chen," but his phone was already ringing. The school. Jack's stomach dropped. "Mr. Morrison, we've had to implement emergency protocols. Reporters on school grounds trying to interview students about Emma. We're securing the building, but you should know." Emma watched him, her empanada halfway to her mouth, picking up his tension. "Take the day off, mija," Mrs. Garcia told her. "Help me make cookies." Jack's phone kept buzzing. Texts from unknown numbers, friend requests, interview offers. One message caught his eye. Detective Chen. "Thompson estate lawyers incoming. Don't sign anything." A knock at Mrs. Garcia's door made them all freeze. Through the decorative glass, they could see several suited figures. "Back door," Mrs. Garcia whispered, already moving. "Pablo, get their bags." Jack grabbed Emma's backpack, but she pulled away. "My art project, it's in my cubby at school." "We'll get another. It's the one I made for Ms. Sarah." Emma's voice rose. "She's supposed to come see it at the art show." The knocking grew louder. Mrs. Garcia herded them toward her garage. "My cousin has a cabin up north, just for a few days, until this settles." Jack lifted Emma, who was now crying quietly about her art project. "Thank you, Maria. I'll pay you back. Shut up and go." But she pressed a bag of fresh empanadas into his hands. "Call when you're safe." They slipped through back alleys, Pablo leading the way. Jack's phone kept buzzing, now with messages from Sarah. "Jack, I'm so sorry. Please let me fix this. My brother's handling it all wrong. Just let me explain." The last one made him pause. "Emma's art show means everything to her. Don't let my mess ruin that too." They reached Pablo's car just as a news van turned down the alley. Jack ducked, shielding Emma. "Children's museum," Pablo suggested, pulling out. "My friend works security. No media allowed." Emma sniffled. "Can we call Ms. Sarah? She'll make them go away." Jack stared at Sarah's messages. She'd included her private number, not going through lawyers or assistants. It felt genuine, but then everything had felt genuine at the hospital too. "Sometimes," he told Emma, "helping people means letting them figure things out for themselves." But as they drove away from their neighborhood, their lives, Emma's school, Jack wondered if he was protecting his daughter, or just running from something that scared him more than frozen lakes. The possibility that Sarah Thompson, billionaire, heiress, might actually be exactly who she seemed with Emma, and what that might mean for his carefully constructed walls. The Thompson family ring glinted on Robert's finger as he spread documents across the Children's Museum conference room table. 3 lawyers flanked him, while Detective Chen stood by the door, her presence requested by both sides. "Mr. Morrison, let's make this simple." Robert's voice carried the smooth authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Sign the NDA, accept the compensation package, and this media circus ends today." Through the conference room's glass wall, Jack could see Emma in the museum's art room, happily painting with Pablo's friend supervising. Even here, they'd found a way to create. "And if I don't sign?" Robert adjusted his cufflinks, gold, with the Thompson family crest. "Then we can't control the narrative. The press will keep digging. They'll find everything: your wife's medical bills, the second mortgage, Emma's reduced-price lunch program." He paused. "Children can be cruel about such things." Jack's hands clenched under the table. Detective Chen shifted slightly, ready to intervene. "My daughter is not a negotiating piece." "No," Robert smiled thinly. "Then why did you let her get attached to my sister?" "The art show project? The cards, rather calculating for a simple janitor." The door burst open before Jack could respond. Sarah stormed in, still pale from her hospital stay, but vibrating with anger. She wore a simple sweater and jeans. A deliberate choice, Jack realized. Nothing like the magazine photos. "That's enough, Robert. You should be resting." Robert didn't look up from his papers. "I'm done resting. I'm done with all of it." Sarah moved to Jack's side of the table. "Tell your lawyers to leave." "Sarah!" She yanked off her own Thompson ring, slamming it down. "Now!" Something in her voice, steel wrapped in silk, made Robert wave the lawyers out. "Detective!" Jen remained, studying the siblings with sharp interest. "You're making a scene," Robert said once they were alone. "No, I'm making a choice. Finally." Sarah turned to Jack. "I'm so sorry about all this, but I need you to know, everything with Emma, with you, it was real. Is real." "Sarah," Robert's voice hardened, "Father's blood pressure. Stop using his health to manipulate me. Stop using everything to manipulate me." She braced herself against the table. "Do you know what I did during those 6 months away? I worked in a bookstore, making minimum wage, and I was happy. You were hiding. I was living, making actual friends, having actual conversations that weren't about mergers or stock prices or family legacy." She looked at Jack. "Do you know why I was at Lake Harriet that morning?" Jack shook his head. "I went for walks there every day, watching families like yours, real people living real lives. That morning I saw you and Emma walking to school. You were laughing about something. She was wearing that purple sweater. You looked free." Robert scoffed. "Freedom. Try living on a janitor's salary. Try living in a cage." Sarah's voice cracked. "Try having every decision, every relationship, every dream measured against the Thompson name. Emma shows me her art and just wants me to see it, not fund a gallery. Jack saved my life without knowing or caring who I was. Through the glass, Emma had finished her painting. She held it up proudly to show Pablo's friend. "Mr. Morrison," Robert tried again, "be reasonable. This fairy tale ends badly. For everyone. The press, the class differences, the scrutiny. Think of Emma." "I am thinking of Emma." Jack stood slowly. "I'm thinking about what I want to teach her. That kindness matters more than money. That real connections aren't bought or managed. That sometimes the richest people are the ones brave enough to walk away from wealth." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Jack," Robert's face darkened, "you're both delusional. When this blows up, then it blows up." Sarah moved to stand beside Jack. "But it'll be real. All of it." Detective Chen cleared her throat. "If I may, the media's circling because they smell blood. Rich heiress, working class hero. They want drama, but if there's no drama to find—" "What do you mean?" Robert demanded. "Show them something real. The art show, Emma's project. Let them see what everyone else sees. Just a family finding its way." "We're not—" Jack started. "Not yet," Sarah said softly, "but we could be." Robert stared at his sister, really seeing her maybe for the first time. She looked happier standing next to a janitor than she had at any board meeting or gala. "Father won't accept this." "I'm not asking him to." Sarah's hand found Jack's. "I'm telling you as my brother. I choose this. A real life. Whatever comes. With it." Emma chose that moment to race in, painting in hand. "Daddy, Miss Sarah, look what I made." 3 adults turned to watch a child proudly display her art, while one, Robert Thompson, saw his carefully constructed plans crumble in. The face of something he'd forgotten how to recognize. Truth. The job offer letter arrived by courier the next morning, delivered to Mrs. Garcia's house where Jack and Emma were still staying. Heavy cream paper, Thompson worldwide letterhead, the kind of document that changed lives. "Director of Fleet Services," Jack read aloud, sitting at Mrs. Garcia's kitchen table. "Overseeing maintenance of corporate vehicles across North America, full benefits, housing allowance, Emma's education fully covered through college." Mrs. Garcia peered over his shoulder at the salary figure and crossed herself. "Santa Maria, they're trying to buy you," Detective Chen said from her spot by the window, where she'd been watching for photographers. "Make you part of the machine." "They're trying to help," Sarah countered. She sat across from Jack, wearing the same simple clothes as yesterday. Robert actually listened. This is his way of accepting things. Jack set the letter down. Outside, he could hear Emma and Pablo playing in the backyard, their laughter a reminder of what really mattered. "It's a good job," Sarah continued softly, "one you're qualified for. Your mechanical skills, your management experience from the garage, my ability to keep quiet about the Thompson heiress." Jack met her eyes. "That's not, isn't it?" He pushed the letter away. "Your brother sees me as a problem to solve. Either I sign NDAs and take hush money, or I get absorbed into the corporate structure where I can be controlled." Sarah flinched. "He's trying to understand. In his world, this is caring." Mrs. Garcia set coffee cups in front of them both. "In his world, maybe, but Jack doesn't live in that world." She patted Sarah's shoulder. "And neither do you anymore, Majita." Detective Chen moved from the window. "Photographers found us. 2 vans down the street." Jack rubbed his temples. The offer letter seemed to pulse on the table, promising solutions to every problem that had kept him awake for years. Emma's education, medical insurance, financial security, everything except the cost to his soul. "I should go," Sarah said quietly. "I'm just making things harder by being here." "No," Jack surprised himself by reaching for her hand. "You're making things clearer." She looked at him questioningly. "This job, it's everything I should want. Everything that would make Emma's life easier. A father with a respectable position instead of a janitor who cleans toilets and fixes cars." "Jack, but that father wouldn't be me, and that life wouldn't be ours." He squeezed her hand. "Emma doesn't need things to be easier. She needs them to be real." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Like us, whatever this is between us, it started with truth. You in the water, me jumping in, no names, no wealth, no complications, just two people connecting. Mrs. Garcia sniffed suspiciously and turned to her stove. Detective Chen smiled slightly. The media's going to keep coming, Sarah warned. My family won't stop trying to manage this. Let them try. Jack stood, still holding her hand. Emma's art show is tomorrow. Think you can handle sitting in a folding chair in a school gymnasium, looking at crayon drawings like a normal person? Sarah laughed through her tears. I've been practicing normal. I even rode the bus yesterday. Heaven help us, Mrs. Garcia muttered. But she was smiling. Detective Chen checked her phone. I can coordinate with school security. Keep the press at a reasonable distance, but you'll have to give them something. We'll give them the truth, Sarah said firmly. A regular art show, regular people. She looked at Jack. Regular love, growing in its own way. Jack felt his heart skip at the word love. Saw the moment Sarah realized what she'd said, but neither took it back. Emma burst in from outside, face flushed from playing. Miss Sarah, you're still here. Want to see my new drawing? Always, Sarah said. And Jack saw Roberts's offer letter for what it was, an attempt to buy authenticity, but you couldn't purchase what Emma's smile freely gave, or what grew naturally between two people brave enough to choose each other. He picked up the letter, tore it neatly in half. Jack, Sarah whispered, the security it would give Emma. Emma has something better, he said, watching his daughter show Sarah her drawing. She has real people who really love her. No job. Title can match that. Outside, reporters' cameras clicked away, trying to capture their story. But the real story was here, in Mrs. Garcia's kitchen, where a billionaire heiress and a janitor's daughter bent over a crayon drawing, equally delighted by its imperfect beauty. Some things, Jack realized, were worth more than any offer letter could contain. Emma's latest drawing hung on Mrs. Garcia's refrigerator. 3 figures in front of a small house, crayon smiles bright and hopeful. My family was written across the top in careful letters, with Jack, Emma and Sarah holding hands beneath a yellow sun. She made it in art therapy, Jack explained, watching Sarah study the picture. School counselor's idea to help her process everything. They sat at Mrs. Garcia's kitchen table late that evening after Emma had gone to bed upstairs. The house was quiet, except for the distant hum of news vans that had become their constant backdrop. Process everything I've complicated, Sarah said softly. No, Jack pushed a cup of coffee toward her. Cheap store brand, not the artisanal. Stuff she must be used to. Process everything that's changing. Some change is good. Sarah wrapped her hands around the mug, and Jack noticed she'd stopped wearing her expensive rings. Her nails were plain now, no perfect manicure. Small changes, but meaningful ones. I want to show you something, she said. At the garage. 20 minutes later, Jack found himself unlocking the garage's side door. The place was dark and quiet, smelling of oil and metal, familiar scents that usually calmed him. But having Sarah here made everything feel different. She led him to a car covered by a tarp. Robert had it delivered this morning. Before everything. Jack pulled back the cover and caught his breath. A 1967 Mustang, original paint faded but intact. The kind of project car he'd always dreamed of working on. It's not a bribe, Sarah said quickly. It's my car, really. Dad gave it to me when I turned 16, but I never learned to work on it myself. I thought maybe. You want to learn? She nodded. I thought you could teach me. And maybe, she touched the car's dusty hood, maybe Emma would like to learn too. Jack studied her face in the dim light. Classic car restoration isn't exactly billionaire heiress territory. Good thing I'm not that anymore. She met his eyes. Robert froze my accounts after I turned down his latest offer. I'm officially cut off. Sarah, it's okay. I have some savings from my bookstore job. Enough for a small apartment. She smiled. I've been looking at places near Emma's school. Actually, Jack's heart did something complicated in his chest. You don't have to. I want to. She stepped closer. I want to learn about cars and pack school lunches and sit in folding chairs at art shows. I want to be someone Emma can look up to for who I am, not what I own. She already does, Jack said quietly. Sarah's hand found his in the darkness. And what about her dad? What does he see when he looks at me now? Someone real, Jack whispered, and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, tentative and sweet, both of them smiling when they pulled apart. The Mustang sat silently beside them, waiting to be restored, like everything else in their lives. I should warn you, Sarah said. I know nothing about cars. I'm going to be a terrible student, Jack laughed. Well, Emma and I are pretty terrible at being rich and sophisticated, so I guess we're even. Perfect, Sarah leaned against him. Though I should tell you, I do still have the car Robert had delivered. The new one. It's parked behind the garage. The Ferrari? Think we could sell it? There's a little house for rent near Emma's school. 3 bedrooms, small yard. Jack turned to look at her. Sarah, I told you I'm done with that life. But one last gift from it? To help build something real? She squeezed his hand. Let me do this. Not for you. For us. For that picture. On Maria's fridge. Jack thought of Emma's drawing, of the 3 figures holding hands, of his daughter's face when Sarah helped her with art projects, of the way his own heart felt fuller, stronger when Sarah was near. One condition, he said finally. Name it. We fix the Mustang together, all of us, as a family. Sarah's smile in the dark garage was brighter than any camera flash. Deal! Outside, the news vans waited to capture their story. But the real story was here, in a small-town garage, where a billionaire's daughter was learning that love was the greatest wealth of all, and a janitor was discovering that sometimes the richest things in life came disguised as simple crayon drawings on a refrigerator door. The old photo album lay open on Jack's temporary bed in Mrs. Garcia's guest room. He hadn't looked at it since moving out of their old apartment, but Sarah's kiss at the garage had brought the memories flooding back. Maria smiled up from the pages, their wedding day, Emma's birth, the last Christmas before the diagnosis. A soft knock at the door. Daddy? Emma stood there in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. I can't sleep. Come here, sunshine. He patted the bed beside him. Emma crawled up, immediately noticing the album. That's Mummy. Yeah, Jack's throat tightened. I was just thinking about her, because of Miss Sarah. Sometimes his daughter's perceptiveness took his breath away. Maybe. Emma traced Maria's, a face in a photo. Do you think Mommy would be mad? About what? About us maybe living with Miss Sarah. About... Emma hesitated. About me drawing her in our family pictures. Jack pulled his daughter close. Your mum loved you more than anything. In the world, she'd want you to be happy. But what about you being happy? Is that okay too? The question hit him like a physical blow. How long had Emma been worrying about this? A floorboard creaked outside the door. Sarah stood there, hesitant. I'm sorry, I heard voices. I can go. No, both Jack and Emma said at once. Sarah entered, slowly, taking in the scene. Her eyes fell on the photo album, understanding dawning. She was beautiful, inside and out, Jack said softly, like someone else I know. Emma patted the bed on her other side. Sarah sat carefully, respecting the moment's delicacy. That's their wedding, Emma explained, pointing to a photo. Mom made the flowers herself, and that's me as a baby. And that's our last Christmas. Her voice wavered slightly. Sarah's arm slipped around Emma's shoulders. Tell me more about her. For the next hour, they looked through photos together. Emma shared stories, some sad, most happy, occasionally mixing up memories with things Mrs. Garcia had told her. Jack found himself sharing too. How Maria always sang off-key while cooking, her terrible puns, her way of finding hope in the darkest moments. Even at the end, Jack said, she made us promise not to stop living. I didn't understand then. And now? Sarah asked quietly. Jack looked at his daughter, snuggled between them, completely at ease. at Sarah, who listened to stories about his late wife with grace and genuine interest. Now I think she knew something I didn't, that hearts can grow without betraying what they once held. Emma yawned. Mom used to say, love is like her garden. The more you grow, the more there is. Sarah wiped her eyes. She sounds very wise. The wisest, Emma agreed sleepily. Can you stay until I fall asleep? Both of you? They sat there as Emma drifted off, the photo album open between them. When her breathing deepened, Sarah whispered, "Thank you for sharing her with me. I should be thanking you for understanding, Jack gestured at Emma, for all of this. I never knew her," Sarah said, "but I see her in Emma's kindness, in your strength." She touched a photo gently. "I'm not trying to replace her." "I know," Jack took her hand. "You're writing a new chapter, not erasing the earlier ones." "Speaking of writing," Sarah smiled tentatively, "I got the keys to that house today, the one near Emma's school." Jack's heart jumped. "Already? The Ferrari sold quickly. I thought maybe this weekend, if you want, we could look at it together. All of us." In sleep, Emma clutched her rabbit tighter, smiling slightly. Jack looked at the last photo in the album, Maria in their tiny garden, pregnant with Emma, glowing with joy and possibility. "She really would like you," he said softly. "You think so?" "I know so." He closed the album gently. "You make her daughter happy. You make her husband remember how to live, what's not to like." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder, careful not to disturb Emma. Outside, the world waited with its complications and cameras. But here, in a quiet room with well-worn photos and new dreams, different kinds of love found a way to coexist. "Weekend sounds perfect," Jack whispered. "Time to start our next chapter." The legal document arrived early Monday morning, carried by one of Robert's lawyers. Its cold official language cut through Jack's world like a knife. Petition for emergency custody review, and question of stability in current environment, and exposure to media exploitation. Detective Chen reviewed it in Mrs. Garcia's living room, her face growing darker with each page. "This is aggressive. They're arguing that the media attention and unstable living situation warrant immediate intervention. They can't take Emma." Jack's voice was hoarse. "They have no right. They have money," Detective Chen said bluntly, "and your recent history plays into their hands. Multiple addresses in 2 weeks, missing work, Emma's school attendance. Because of them." Sarah paced the small room. "Robert's behind this. He's using Child Protective Services to force our hands." Outside, Emma played with Pablo in the backyard, blissfully unaware. They were supposed to be looking at the new house today. Sarah had already enrolled in a basic auto mechanics class at the community college. Life had been moving forward. "There's a simple solution." Robert's voice came from the doorway. No one had heard him enter. "Sign the previous agreements. Return to the approved narrative. Sarah comes home. Mr. Morrison accepts his corporate position. Everything returns to normal." "Normal?" Sarah's voice shook. "You're threatening to take away a child to get what you want. That's not normal, Robert. That's monstrous. I'm protecting our family name, our legacy." Robert straightened his tie. "The media's already digging. Did you think they wouldn't find Maria's medical bills, the debt collectors, the second mortgage?" Jack stood slowly. "You leave my wife out of this. Your wife made choices that left Emma vulnerable, and now you're doing the same." Robert's voice softened with practiced concern. "The court will see it that way. A single father, deeply in debt, living in temporary housing, exposing his child to a media circus, compared to a stable corporate position, proper housing, full, educational support. Get out." Jack's hands had curled into fists. "Think about Emma," Robert pressed. "What's better for her? A life of struggle and uncertainty, or a life of truth?" Sarah interrupted. She moved to stand beside Jack. "Emma knows exactly who her father is. A man who jumps into frozen lakes to save strangers, who works 2 jobs without complaint, who teaches her that love matters more than money. Pretty sentiments won't hold up in court." "No?" Detective Chen spoke up. I have some sentiments that might, like witness tampering, abuse of process, malicious use of child services. She smiled thinly. I've been building quite a file, Mr. Thompson. Robert's facade cracked slightly. You're a local detective. You have no jurisdiction. But I have friends in the FBI's white-collar division. They're very interested in certain Thompson worldwide transactions, particularly around the time Sarah disappeared. The room grew very quiet. Outside, Emma's laughter floated through the window. You're bluffing, Robert said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Try me. Detective Chen held his gaze. You're used to buying or intimidating your way out of problems, but some things can't be controlled. Some people can't be bought. Robert, Sarah's voice was suddenly gentle. Do you remember that summer? At the lake house, before Father's company went public? Her brother stiffened. We were happy then, real. You taught me to skip stones, remember? No shareholders watching, no image to maintain, just a brother and sister playing by the water. That was a long time ago. But it was true, like what I have with Jack and Emma. Is true. Sarah stepped toward her brother. Help me keep something true, Robert, please. Jack watched Robert's face as something shifted behind his corporate mask. A memory, perhaps, or a recognition. The mighty Thompson's scion looked suddenly tired. The board meets tomorrow, he said quietly. They'll want answers. Tell them the truth, Sarah said. Their perfect corporate princess found something better than billion-dollar deals. She found a family. Robert looked at the custody petition in his hands, then at the window where Emma's laughter still rang out. Slowly, deliberately, he tore the document in half. The media will still talk, he warned. Let them, Jack said. We've got nothing to hide. Robert studied them both for a long moment. I'll need to make some calls. Corporations hate uncertainty more than bad news. He turned to leave, then paused. Sarah, yes, that lake house, I remember the stones had to be flat. You could never find the right ones. A smile trembled on Sarah's lips. You always shared your best ones with me. Something almost like emotion crossed Robert's face. Then his mask returned, and he was gone. Detective Chen let out a long breath. Well, that's one crisis averted. But he's right about the media. They won't stop just because he does. Then we'll face them, Jack said, pulling Sarah close. Together, like we do everything else. Through the window, Emma waved at them, her smile bright as sunshine. Some battles were worth fighting, Jack realized. Not just against others, but against the fear inside yourself that said happiness was too fragile to trust, too precious to keep. Sarah's resignation letter sat on the podium. A single page that would change everything. The school gymnasium was packed, not just with parents for the art show, but with reporters who'd gotten wind of the impending statement. Principal Chen had finally agreed to one controlled press event, hoping to end the media circus around her school. Ready? Jack asked softly, standing beside Sarah backstage. Emma held both their hands, practically bouncing with excitement about her art display. I've given $100 million presentations to boards of directors, Sarah whispered back. Why is this scarier? Because it's real, Emma said simply. Sarah squeezed her hand, then stepped up to the podium. Camera flashes erupted. She looked different than the polished heiress from magazine covers. Wearing jeans and a borrowed sweater from Mrs. Garcia, her hair in a simple ponytail. Real. Thank you all for coming, she began. Especially those of you here for your children's actual art show. I promise to be brief. A ripple of gentle laughter. I have a prepared statement, but first I want to tell you about a drawing. She gestured to Emma's art display. This piece was made by Emma Morrison. It shows 3 people in front of a house. A family. My family, though not by blood or law or corporate decree. By choice. By love. The reporters shifted, sensing a bigger story than they'd expected. 6 months ago, I ran away from a life that looked perfect on paper. I wanted something real. Then 3 weeks ago, I fell through ice into Lake Harriet. A man jumped in to save me. Not because I was Sarah Thompson of Thompson Worldwide, but because I was a person who needed help. Sarah's voice strengthened. That man, Jack Morrison, taught me more about wealth in one act of kindness than all my family's billions ever did. He and his daughter showed me that real richness isn't in bank accounts or stock portfolios. It's in morning hugs and crayon, drawings, and the courage to choose love over luxury. She lifted her resignation letter. So today, I'm formally resigning from Thompson Worldwide. I'm stepping away from my trust fund, my position, and my family obligations. Instead, I'm enrolling in community college to study automotive repair. I'm moving into a small house near Emma's school. I'm choosing to live genuinely, even if that means living simply. The gymnasium erupted with questions. Sarah held up her hand. One more thing. She turned to where Jack and Emma stood in the wings. Come here, please. They joined her at the podium, Emma immediately hugging her waist. Jack stood close, protective, but letting her finish what she needed to say. This is my family now, not because of a crisis or a rescue or a fairy tale, but because we choose each other every day. Emma teaches me about art. Jack's teaching me about cars. I'm learning that love doesn't need managing or marketing or million-dollar solutions. It just needs truth. A reporter called out, "What about the Thompson family legacy?" "My legacy?" Sarah smiled. "It's right here, in a child's drawing of the family she dreams of. In a man brave enough to jump into frozen lakes and frozen hearts. In the choice to be real instead of rich." She looked at Jack, who nodded slightly. Sarah turned back to the crowd. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we have an art show to enjoy. My daughter's worked very hard on her project, and I promised to buy her hot chocolate from the PTA stand afterward." The word daughter silenced the room. Then from the back someone started clapping, others joined in. Soon the whole gymnasium thundered with applause, not for the billionaire heiress, but for the woman brave enough to walk away from billions for love. As the applause continued, Jack leaned close to whisper, "You called her your daughter." "Is that okay?" Sarah whispered back. Emma looked up at them both, her eyes shining. "Can I call you Mom? Not instead of Mom in heaven, but like Mom on earth?" Sarah knelt down, eye level with Emma, uncaring of the cameras still flashing. "I would be honored, but only if you're ready." Emma's answer was a fierce hug that said more than words ever could. Jack helped them both up, and together they turned to Emma's art display, a crayon masterpiece of three figures holding hands in front of a small house. Above them, two suns shared the sky, one labeled "Mom Watching from Heaven," and one simply "Mom." The cameras caught it all, but for once neither Jack nor Sarah minded. Some moments deserved witnessing, some truths needed sharing, some loves changed everything. The small business loan application form sat half-completed on their new kitchen counter, next to paint swatches and renovation plans. Jack stared at the previous experience section, pen hovering uncertainly. "Put it all down," Sarah said, coming up behind him with coffee. "Every car you've fixed, every job you've managed at the garage, it's not exactly corporate experience. It's better." She kissed his cheek. "It's real experience." The morning sun streamed through their kitchen window, still bare of curtains, but Emma had plans for homemade ones involving fabric paint and ambitious designs. The house was small by Thompson standards, but perfect by theirs. 3 bedrooms, a yard for Emma's future garden, and most importantly, a 2-car garage that Jack was converting into a proper auto shop. "Morning!" Emma bounded in, already dressed for school. "Can we work on the Mustang after my homework today?" "Don't you have art club?" Jack reminded her. "After that, then. Mom's learning about carburetors in her class. She can explain them to us." Sarah laughed. "I can try, though I mostly learned how to pronounce it correctly yesterday." The normalcy of the moment struck Jack suddenly. His daughter eating breakfast, Sarah making lunch for them all, the familiar rhythm of a family morning. Even the lingering reporters outside had dwindled to an occasional photographer. "Oh!" Emma jumped up. "I forgot to tell you. Robert's coming to my presentation." Jack and Sarah exchanged glances. After the press conference, Robert had maintained a careful distance, though he'd started sending Emma small gifts, art supplies mostly, with notes signed Uncle Robert. "He called last night," Emma continued. "He wants to see my project about different types of families." "And you're okay with that?" Sarah asked carefully. Emma nodded. "He's trying to understand, like you said, and—" She hesitated. "I told him he could be in my family tree. As uncle, is that okay?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "That's more than okay, sweetheart." The doorbell rang. Mrs. Garcia and Pablo, right on schedule for their carpool. Some things hadn't changed, just grown richer with new additions. After Emma left, Jack returned to the loan application. Sarah watched him work, sipping her coffee. "You know," she said casually, "my first paycheck from the bookstore comes next week." Jack looked up. "Sarah, you don't have to work." "Yes, I do. Because I want to, because it feels good." She sat beside him. "And because this shop is going to be a family business. All of us." "You're really serious about the mechanic classes?" "I am, though I might be the first student in history to get excited about successfully identifying a wrench." Jack laughed, then grew serious. "You know this life. It won't always be easy. There will be bills and broken appliances and regular people problems." "Good." Sarah took his hand. "Regular problems mean regular joys too. Like teaching Emma to change oil. Like watching you build something that's truly yours. Like," she smiled, "like finally getting to kiss you without cameras watching." Jack set down his pen. "That does sound pretty good." Their kiss was interrupted by a knock at the door. Detective Chen stood there, holding a folder. "Last bits of paperwork," she said. "Legal name change for Sarah, updated school emergency contacts for Emma, joint business license application." She smiled. "Thought you might want these before Robert visits, just to have everything official." As they reviewed the documents, a car pulled into their driveway, Mike from the garage. "Got those parts you wanted, boss," he called out. "Though I still say you're crazy to leave for your own shop." "Not crazy," Jack said. "Just ready." Mike shook his head, but he was grinning. "Well, when you need an extra set of hands, you'll be our first hire," Sarah promised. After everyone left, Jack and Sarah stood in their small kitchen looking at the pile of papers that represented their new life. Loan applications, business licenses, legal documents, each one a step away from their old worlds, a step towards something they were building together. "Ready for this?" Jack asked. Sarah picked up a wrench from the counter. She'd taken to carrying one around, practicing the proper grip. "Ready for everything." The adoption papers lay open on the kitchen table, next to Emma's family tree project. Sarah stared at the forms, her hand trembling slightly as she held the pen. "We don't have to do this now," Jack said softly. "There's no rush." "I want to," Sarah replied. She touched Emma's drawing of their family tree. It was elaborate, with branches spreading in all directions. Maria held a special place at the top, marked with stars and hearts. Below, Emma had drawn their current family, including Uncle Robert and Grandma Eleanor on Sarah's side, along with Mrs. Garcia labeled as bonus grandma. "It's a lot," Jack acknowledged. "Legally becoming a parent." "It's not that." Sarah looked up at him. "I'm afraid of overstepping, of dishonoring Maria's memory." The back door opened, and Emma burst in with Mrs. Garcia, both carrying garden supplies. They were planning a memorial garden for Maria, combining Emma's artistic vision with Mrs. Garcia's gardening expertise. "Mom, we found the perfect roses!" Emma rushed to show Sarah the plant catalogue, then noticed the papers. "Are those my adoption papers?" Sarah nodded. "Are you scared?" Emma asked with her usual directness. "A little," Sarah admitted. Emma climbed onto her lap, soil still on her hands. "When I was scared about calling you Mum, you know what helped? Something Mommy used to say about her garden." "What was that?" "The more flowers you plant, the prettier the garden gets. Adding new ones doesn't make the old ones less special." Sarah hugged her tight, not caring about the dirt. "When did you get so wise?" "She gets it from both her mothers," Mrs. Garcia said, wiping her eyes with her apron. The front door chimed, Robert arriving early for their family dinner. He'd started coming regularly, slowly learning to leave the corporate world at the door. Today, he carried a large envelope. "I thought you might need these," he said, uncharacteristically hesitant. "Mother, she wanted you to have them." Inside were childhood photos of Sarah, ballet recitals, birthday parties, quiet moments Eleanor Thompson had captured of her daughter, and a note, in elegant handwriting, "For Emma's family tree. With love, Grandma." Sarah's tears fell freely now. "How is she?" "Better, the therapy's helping. She's talking about visiting, if that's okay." "Of course it is." Jack surprised himself by meaning it. "Family's family?" Emma was already incorporating the new photos into her project. "Look, baby mom with pigtails." "Oh, God," Sarah laughed through her tears. "Not the pigtail phase." "I have some of Maria's old photos too," Mrs. Garcia said. "From when they first moved here. Emma was just a baby." They gathered around the table, Jack, Sarah, Emma, Robert, and Mrs. Garcia, passing photos back and forth, sharing stories, building bridges between past and present. The adoption papers waited patiently. Finally, Emma picked up the pen and held it out to Sarah. "You know what else Mommy used to say? Love is the only thing that grows bigger when you share it." Sarah took the pen. Her signature was no longer the crisp corporate one she'd used on billion-dollar contracts, but something softer, more real, like her heart. Jack signed next, then Emma added her own careful signature as witness. Robert, still a notary despite, stepping back from active Thompson business, made it official. "Congratulations," he said formally, then cracked a rare smile. "I always wanted to be an uncle." Mrs. Garcia was already calling Pablo to bring celebration supplies. Emma ran to add the final touches to her family tree, now complete with official adoption date. Sarah leaned against Jack, watching their daughter work. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For letting me into your family. For helping me build a new one, for—" She gestured at the busy kitchen, where Robert was awkwardly learning to set a non-formal table under Mrs. Garcia's instruction. "For all of this," Jack kissed her temple. "Thank you for jumping into our life, for loving Emma, for choosing us every day." "Best fall I ever took," Sarah murmured, "into that lake, into love, into real life." Emma came running back with her completed family tree. "Look, now it's perfect." And it was, not because it was symmetrical or traditional or what either of them had imagined, but because it was true. Every branch, every name, every connection, earned through love, strengthened by choice, growing stronger every day. The memorial bench overlooked Lake Harriet, its brass plaque catching the spring sunlight, where every ending is a beginning. Sarah traced the engraving with her fingers, while Emma arranged flowers at its base. Roses from Maria's memorial garden mixed with wildflowers they'd picked that morning. "Hard to believe it was just here 3 months ago," Jack said, sitting beside them. The lake sparkled peacefully, ice long melted, winter only a memory. Their newly restored Mustang was parked nearby, their first complete family project. Emma had helped sand and paint, learning about cars alongside Sarah. The cavalry blue color had been her choice, approved by all 3 of them, huddled over paint swatches in their garage. "The shop opens next week," Sarah mused, watching a family of ducks glide past. "Morrison and Family Auto Repair." "Are you nervous?" Emma asked, settling between them on the bench. "Terrified," Sarah admitted. "But the good kind of terrified. Like jumping into a frozen lake to save someone you love." Jack took her hand. "I seem to remember I did the jumping, and now I get to return the favor. Different kind of rescue, same principle." Sarah squeezed his fingers. "Speaking of which," she reached into her jacket, not designer label anymore, but comfortable and oil-stained from their work on the Mustang. The small velvet box she withdrew made Jack's breath catch. "Sarah, my turn to be brave." She opened the box, revealing a simple gold band. "I know it's not what I'm used to giving. The old me would have bought out a jewelry store, but this I bought with my first full paycheck from the bookstore, because I wanted it to be real, like us." Emma bounced excitedly on the bench. "Can I tell him the rest?" Sarah laughed. "Go ahead, sweetheart. We got it sized using the string trick while you were sleeping," Emma announced proudly. "And I helped pick it because it looks like the one in the picture of you and Mommy, but a little different, so it's like both our families together." Jack looked at his daughter, their daughter now, officially, and the woman who had fallen into their lives like an answer to a prayer they hadn't known to make. "The last time we were here," he said slowly, "I was afraid of drowning. Not in the water, but in changes I couldn't control, in feelings I didn't think I deserved to have again. And now," Sarah's voice was soft. Jack took the ring. "Now I know some things are worth diving into. Some loves are worth the risk." "Is that a yes?" Emma asked anxiously. "'Cause Mom's been practicing this speech for weeks, and Uncle Robert helped me pick my flower girl dress, and Grandma Eleanor already ordered the cake." "You all knew?" "Mrs. Garcia helped too," Emma continued. "She said we had to do it here, where your story started. And Detective Chen got the permits for the bench, and the whole family conspired," Sarah admitted, "though you haven't actually said yes yet." Jack slipped on the ring. "Like there was ever any doubt." Their kiss was interrupted by Emma's cheering and the sudden appearance of their extended family from behind nearby trees. Mrs. Garcia with her famous empanadas, Robert looking almost relaxed in casual clothes, Eleanor Thompson tentatively carrying a homemade dish, Pablo filming everything on his phone. Finally, Detective Chen emerged with champagne. "Do you know how hard it was keeping this spot clear of other people?" The lake sparkled behind them as their family gathered around the bench. Eleanor hugged Sarah carefully, still learning how to show affection without restraint. Robert helped Mrs. Garcia set up the celebration picnic, asking earnest questions about her recipes. Emma bounced between groups, her joy infectious. "Look," she said suddenly, pointing at the lake, "2 dragonflies dancing." They all watched the insects swoop and swirl over the water where, months ago, 2 strangers had found each other in the cold. Now the spring sun warmed their faces as they celebrated not just an engagement, but the creation of something rare and precious, a family built on choice, strengthened by differences, united by love. "To new beginnings," Robert raised his champagne glass. "To family," Mrs. Garcia added. "To love," Eleanor said softly, surprising them all. "To everything," Emma declared, raising her apple juice. Jack held Sarah close, their family surrounding them, the bench's plaque gleaming, where every ending is a beginning. Sometimes he realized the biggest rescues aren't dramatic plunges into frozen lakes. Sometimes they're the quiet choice to let love in, to build something new, to believe in second chances and fresh starts, and the kind of miracles that happen when you're brave enough to dive deep. The house keys clinked together, old and new, practical and symbolic. The original key to their home, the fresh-cut key to Morrison and Family Auto Repair, and now the key to Sarah's old lake house, a wedding gift from Robert that had left them speechless. "You can't give us a house," Sarah had protested. "I'm not," Robert replied. "I'm returning your house, the one where we skipped stones, remember? Father always said it was too small for entertaining clients, but it was perfect for being real," Sarah finished softly. Now, a week before the wedding, their small house buzzed with activity. Eleanor and Mrs. Garcia had formed an unlikely but effective wedding planning alliance, combining Thompson elegance with practical warmth. The garage's grand opening was scheduled for the day after they returned from their honeymoon, a weekend at the lake house with Emma. "Mom, the sign is here!" Emma called from outside. They hurried out to where a delivery truck was unloading. Their shop's sign. The design was Emma's, a wrench and a heart intertwined, with Morrison and Family Auto Repair in bold letters. Below, in smaller text, where every fix makes families stronger. It's perfect, Jack said, hugging them both. Sarah wiped her eyes. I can't believe this is really happening. Which part? Emma asked. The wedding or the shop? All of it. Being a mom, learning about cars, marrying your dad. Sarah smiled, finding out that happiness doesn't need to be complicated to be perfect. The shop itself was ready. Tools organized, lifts installed, waiting room decorated with Emma's art, and comfortable chairs Mrs. Garcia had helped reupholster. Mike had accepted their job offer to be their first employee, and Pablo was handling. Their social media, local lake rescue leads to love, had become something of a community legend. Detective Chen pulled up in her car, which now got serviced exclusively by Jack. Wedding present delivery, she announced, hauling out a large box. From the Lake Harriet Neighborhood Association. Inside was a handmade quilt, each square contributed by a different neighbor. Images of their story, the lake rescue, the Mustang, Emma's art, their new shop, all stitched together with care and community love. We're on a quilt, Emma marveled. We're like officially part of history. Eleanor arrived next, carrying wedding details to review. She'd learned to knock instead of just appearing, to ask instead of assuming, to love her daughter for who she was, rather than who she'd planned for her to be. The flowers from Maria's garden are perfect for the bouquet, she said. And Robert found a way to stream the ceremony to your father's hospital room, Sarah. His heart's getting stronger. Like everything else, Sarah said, squeezing Jack's hand. They gathered around their kitchen table. Eleanor with her wedding binder, Emma with her flower girl dress designs, Mrs. Garcia bringing in fresh empanadas, Robert arriving late with paint samples for the lake house. Family in all its beautiful complexity. I have something, Emma announced. For the wedding. She retrieved her art supplies and a large paper. On it, she'd drawn their story, from the lake rescue to now, but with an empty panel at the end. This is for after the wedding, she explained, for whatever happens next. Because our story isn't over, right? Not even close, Jack promised. Sarah studied the drawing. You know what I love most about this? There's no billions, no corporate deals, no fancy things. Just us, living, loving, being real. Speaking of real, Robert interjected, Thomson Worldwide's board officially approved. The Community Investment Initiative you suggested, Sarah. Small business grants, focusing on family-owned operations. Like us, Emma said proudly. Like you, Robert agreed. Though you didn't hear it from me, your application looks very promising. Jack started to protest, but Sarah stopped him. It's not charity if we earn it, and we will. The keys clinked again as Jack pulled them out, starting to separate the shop key for tomorrow's prep work. Emma's hand covered his. Keep them together, she said, like us. Through the window, they could see their shop's sign being installed. The heart and wrench caught the sunlight, casting joined shadows. Inside, their family continued planning, a wedding, a business, a future, while Emma worked on her next drawing. Sarah watched them all, these people who had taught her that real wealth couldn't be measured in dollars. Jack, who had jumped into frozen water and melted frozen hearts. Emma, who had shown her that love only multiplies, never divides. Even Robert, learning that power isn't always about control. Penny, for your thoughts, Jack asked softly. Sarah held up her grease-stained hands, still elegant, but now marked by honest work. Just thinking about different kinds of riches, and how sometimes you have to lose everything to find what you really need. Very profound, Mom, Emma teased, adding another panel to her drawing. But you're going to be late for your mechanics class. Sarah laughed, gathering her books. Heaven forbid. I'm finally learning about transmissions. That's my girl, Jackie said proudly, and Sarah's heart soared at how naturally he said it, how perfectly she fit into this life she'd never known she needed. The family Christmas card, propped on their shop's front counter, showed 3 smiling faces in front of their lake house, a restored Mustang gleaming in the background. Season's greetings from Morrison and Family Auto Repair was printed in Emma's handwriting, with a small drawing of a wrench wearing a Santa hat. One year had changed so much, and yet the important things remained the same. The shop was thriving. Their reputation for honest work and family atmosphere had created a loyal customer base. Sarah had graduated from her basic mechanics course and was now handling the books while learning more advanced repairs. Jack had hired 2 more mechanics, including Pablo, who'd discovered a talent for automotive work. Emma's art covered the waiting room walls, updated regularly with her latest pieces. Her favorite was still the family tree, though it had grown new branches. Robert's new girlfriend, Eleanor's book club friends who'd become honorary aunts, mechanics, kids who were now Emma's cousins in all but blood. "Hot chocolate delivery!" Mrs. Garcia called, entering with her signature thermos. Minnesota winters still bit deep, but they'd learned to keep each other warm. The shop door chimed as Detective Chen entered, now a regular customer and friend. "Cars making that noise again. The one you said wasn't worth mentioning?" Sarah teased, wiping grease from her hands. A Thompson signet ring still gleamed on her finger, but it was mostly used for stamping their logo into oil change reminder. "Cards now." Yeah, Chen smiled. "How's the lake house renovation going?" "Almost done." Jack emerged from under a car. "Robert's actually pretty good with a hammer when he forgets to wear a suit." Speaking of Robert, he'd surprised them all by stepping back from Thompson Worldwide's day-to-day operations to focus on their charitable foundation. The Small Business Support Initiative had helped dozens of family-owned shops get started. He still wore suits, but they'd noticed oil stains didn't send him into crisis anymore. Eleanor had moved to Minneapolis, claiming the art scene, but really wanting to be closer to her granddaughter. She volunteered at Emma's school now, teaching art appreciation and learning to see beauty in imperfection. "Mom, Dad!" Emma burst in from school, Pablo's mum dropping her off. "I got the lead in the play." Sarah caught her in a hug, not caring about grease stains on Emma's coat. "That's wonderful. Grandma Eleanor already ordered the flowers, and Uncle Robert's flying back early from Tokyo to see it, and Mrs. Garcia's making special empanadas for the cast party." And Jack watched his daughter bounce with excitement, his wife's eyes shining with pride, their family shop humming with honest work and real love. Through the window, Lake Harriet sparkled in winter sunshine. Sometimes he still couldn't believe how one desperate moment had led to all of this. The door chimed again, Mike bringing in parts for tomorrow's jobs. "Hey, Lake Hero!" The nickname had stuck, though the media circus was long gone. Their story had settled into community legend, told over coffee at Jerry's Diner, whispered by kids at Emma's school, celebrated every year at the Lake Harriet Winter Festival. Sarah moved to help Mike with the boxes, her movements confident now around the shop equipment. She'd never be a master mechanic, but she'd found her place in their family business, balancing books and changing oil with equal dedication. "Remember when you couldn't tell a wrench from a screwdriver?" Jack teased. "Remember when you couldn't tell a billionaire from a bookstore clerk?" She shot back. Emma looked up from her homework, spread out on their waiting room coffee table. "Remember when we weren't a family?" The question made them all pause. It seemed impossible now, thinking of life before the lake, before the rescue, before. Love proved stronger than wealth or fear or frozen waters. The Christmas card caught the late afternoon light, their smiling faces bright with joy that couldn't be bought or sold. A year ago, they'd been strangers. Now they were something better, real, honest, true. Outside, snow began to fall on Minneapolis. Inside Morrison and Family Auto Repair, a father kissed his wife's greasy cheek, a daughter drew hearts around her math problems, and a family lived their everyday miracle. Some endings weren't endings at all, but doorways to better stories. Some rescues worked both ways. And some loves, like the best repairs, just needed honest work and true hearts to last forever.